we know that there's a lot going on because you have signed a tight end, Cole Kmet, to a contract extension. You said on Tuesday you couldn't talk about contracts. I hope you could talk about contracts today because this is big news. What was it about Cole Kmet that made you feel comfortable in the size of the investment that you made in him?
Yeah, I would say, talking with Flus since we've been here, Cole embodies everything that we look for in a Chicago Bear. Dependability, toughness, great locker room guy, does everything that he's supposed to. And then on top of that, the production, he's done a really good job through adversity, never flinched, never blinks through the ups and downs. So it was really cool to get him done and extended and keep him here in his hometown. And how cool is that? A kid that grew up around the area to spend a long time as a Chicago Bear. You can't draw that up. I love the story with it too. So I'm happy for Cole and his family.
Ryan, additionally, it also speaks to his improvement in your system.
Yeah.
How confident are you in the system, proving that Cole Kmet is one of those examples that you can see this in other players as well? And how did it work for him too?
Yeah, well, he dove right in. We earned each other's trust, in terms of a new regime, and he worked his butt off to adapt to the changes that came with a new regime coming in, new coaching staff, and Luke Getsy. And I got to give the coaches a lot of credit for that. They put a lot of time in. Jim Dre, who played tight end in the league for a while, being a mentor for him and getting his game to the next level. And yeah, there's a lot of confidence. Obviously, when you make an investment like this, you see that player ascending and continue to be productive and get better as we go. And I think the other thing too is when you do this, I guess the one worry that general managers have is when you have an extension, you're not asking the player to become someone else. You want him to continue to be Cole Kmet, everything that he stands for, continue to improve on the plane that he's on. Doesn't need to go and try to be somebody else. Just continue to do what you're doing, improve on a daily and yearly basis, and the Bears are going to be really happy about that.
See, that's the tricky part, isn't it? Because you give somebody that kind of a contract, and human nature, whether it's Bears fans who are season ticket holders or sports talk radio hosts who look at the numbers, and you see 45 catches average in his first 3 years, and you're like, oh, man, now he's making this, and now he's guaranteed that. And, Ryan, I wonder how prepared – Cole Kmet seems like a very level-headed professional, so I guess I'm not as worried as maybe some other guys. But it is part of the equation where you have these expectations that are now raised because of what he is making, and it kind of magnifies his weekly production.
No doubt about it. You kind of answered the question when you said, he's so level-headed. Exactly. With him, you don't worry about that. That guy is stable. He takes, one day at a time, continues to work. He was pumped yesterday, but he's back on the field grinding. He knew 20 minutes before practice he had an outstanding practice. There was no change in his body language. There's no change in trying to do too much or being more vocal. He was exactly who he was. And that dependability piece, I think, is one of the more underrated things probably in all occupations that we're really happy that we have that guy. It's the same guy every day.
I also think that you're illustrating right now an example that can be set. We know it's a pivotal year for guys like Darnell Mooney and Chase Claypool. Are you illustrating the example of what can happen for people whose contracts are up in the future as to how the investment the team can make in them and how they can succeed?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's part of this game. A lot of times we tiptoe around it, and, even it's a tough thing for me too, because I really, the contracts things, I don't want to get into that because it is very personal. There's a financial piece to it, but part of the motivation in being an NFL player is getting to a place where you can take care of your family for a long period of time. That's part of this game. So you want to set the example of, hey, if for the guys that are doing it the right way, we would love to keep them, in-house and keep those homegrown players. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, just in terms of there's two sides to any negotiation, and you got to find that sweet spot. So again, with Cole, we're really happy that we found that, and we'll see how it goes with others as we move forward.
Talking with Bears general manager Ryan Poles here on Mully and Haugh. Leila Rahimi in for Mully today. So, Ryan, this obviously makes a strong statement about your commitment and what you value as a franchise in an organization. I would think that a guy like Jalen Johnson, who is also, facing the same contractual reality that Cole Kmet was facing, would resonate with him. That's the kind of thing that you want to see, and it's good for organizations to do this kind of thing. Jalen Johnson has now representation the way it's been reported. Does that change things? And how big of a priority is it in locking him up because of what he means to your defense?
Yeah. So again, I know you guys hate this, but I'm not going to get into every single player's, contract negotiation. If we are, we are. If we're planning on or not. I think we do a pretty good job communicating with these guys. I love Jalen. He's doing a great job. I can't wait to see him continue to grow and develop, in this scheme and continue to make plays for us. And we'll see, how everything moves forward.
I know that you guys still have some money to burn under the cap. And I asked that question also asking, is the defensive line a finished product? And if yes or no, why?
There's really no part of the team that's a finished product. There's guys that are developing in those position rooms and continuing to grow as players. And then, as I've said from the day I walked in here, we will exhaust our efforts in terms of finding players that can come in and enhance our team. So we're always looking to add. We're always looking to develop our own. And if we find a match of someone that can come in and help us, we're going to do that, and we'll be aggressive with it. Again, I've mentioned this a few times, there's a lot more that goes into it than us just identifying talent and saying, hey, let's go get this guy. There's another side to it. There's a financial piece to it. There's also the part where I have to stay disciplined in this approach and not just do things for the moment where it's going to hurt us down the road. And that's the hardest part of this job is taking care of the now, but also making sure that we're staying healthy long term. So again, our mission statement here is to be successful for a long period of time and sustain success. So I got to take all of those things into consideration, and that gets very complicated at times. But we are going to stay opportunistic, and we're going to continue to develop the guys that are here.
Ryan, I think when you hear from Justin Fields and he says he wants to be a 4,000-yard passer, and he says thanks but no thanks to Netflix about the quarterback documentary, and all of the things that underscore what I think a special leader he can become and maybe already is. And then we already know what he can do with the football in the open field as a runner. Those things are without question. The next step for him, I believe from the outside, I think you might even agree, is becoming a more polished passer, processing things at the line of scrimmage quicker, in the pocket, becoming a guy that can beat you with his arm as deadly as he can with his legs. What gives you confidence that he's going to be able to take that next step as a passer this season?
Yeah, if you just look at the intangibles, very similar to what I talked about with Cole, this guy comes to work every single day trying to get better. He attacks it on his own. He's a guy that you actually got to pull back more than you have to push, to be honest with you. So he knows where he has to improve. He's attacking it. What I love about what I saw just from this offseason and then especially in this first practice, his body language is different, man. He is confident. He's loose. I feel like he's seeing things better. I like his approach. But I think the key is just continue to improve and not worry about, even I know he said it, but forget the stats and all that. Just continue to get better. All that stuff comes, as you improve your execution. So we're looking forward to that. He's attacking it. I love the way he looks right now. The chemistry with the guys around him is coming along. I love the way the old line looks. It's just helmets, right now. So you don't know until you put the pads on. But we're improving around him. He's improving himself. He just needs to go play football like he's done for a long, long time and let it come to him. So I'm really hopeful that it all comes together.
I know you've talked a little bit about the offensive line and how it's looked. I know you've talked about Darnell Wright losing weight. But when you see the group together now, what do you think the real improvement is going to be to anticipate what we saw last year to this year?
Yeah, the one thing I was texting one of my scouts last night when I was watching the tape, and they're working really well together. I'm kind of O-line nerd, but when you see combination blocks, in the run game, and guys giving a helping hand to, the backside offensive lineman who's got to scoop underneath. That little hand right there helps it. Just how they're working together, the space in pass protection, having each other's back in terms of, inside counters and things like that. So they're working well together, which is really cool to see. I'm hoping this group can, stay like that for a while. Obviously, as I've mentioned before too, like whatever group of 5 you start with may not be the group of 5 that you finish with. So we're going to insert, other guys too that are also competing, so that they're ready to go as well. You never know how this thing is going to shake out, but I just love the way that they're working together. Again, it's very early, but we're making strides there.
Was it the O-line nerd in you that compelled you to share the detail that Darnell Wright crushed the conditioning test? Because when you hear that, and when you talk about how he's dropped body fat, I think if it's possible, you're excited to see a right tackle. I mean, you're excited to see a guy in the lineup who is athletic, who is healthy, frankly, Ryan, who is available and could be there for a very long time. When the pads go on, how big of an impact will we notice? What kind of impact will he make on this offense?
Yeah. So first, the conditioning thing, I say that because if any big human being that had to do a conditioning test understands the anxiety that comes with it. So he was prepared, and I just wanted to make that point because, there's no worse feeling when, your first-round pick or any rookie shows up and he's completely out of shape. So he did things on his own. He was disciplined when there wasn't, college structure around him. So I thought that was pretty cool. In terms of the impact, listen, we will see impact. He's a big human being. He's explosive. But at the same time, we got to be realistic. He's a first-year player that's going to have ups and downs. But what I do know about him and his makeup and how he plays, he can be a prick, and he's going to finish, and he's going to fight. If he gets beat, he's coming back the next play. So there will be ups and downs. That will happen. He'll continue to improve and become a pro over time. But in terms of just the size, athletic combination, that should definitely stand out.
I love that description. That's fun for us in radio. Is that a trait you look for in your offensive lineman as a whole?
Yeah, it is a trait. You want that. They may not all have it to the same level, but you got to have a little bit in you to play this game at a high level.
Ryan, we always talk about the growth that players will make from one season to the next, whether it's a rookie going into season 2 or maybe a young veteran maturing and developing into the kind of player he will be. Coaches, it's the same thing. And I wonder, as you evaluate Matt Eberflus, it's difficult to look at last year, and because of the realities and because of what happened after the trade deadline, it's hard to know what kind of head coach you have from the outside. When you look for growth in your head coach in season 2, what are you looking for specifically?
Yeah, I've already seen it. I mean, it's that first year, there is so much going on. You're trying to kick off a new process. There is a lot going on. And you can tell he has a level of comfort right now that it's just, you can feel it. And he's highly effective. He's highly motivating. He's got touch on both the offensive and defensive side and special teams. So you already see in his body language and how he's attacking the process that he's more comfortable in this position. I think, when we studied the situational setup from last year in terms of, go for it, don't go for it, punts, field goals, different things like that, scored really, really well. So as that continues to improve and he affects, spending time with the defense and the offense, I think it's all going to improve. But I've been so happy with Flus, and he's going to have a better year this year, as we continue to improve the roster. So I'm not even really concerned about that.
Brian, I've really appreciated your transparency when it comes to the process this offseason, whether it's talking to Peter King about how your trade with the first overall pick went down, or even just what you're saying with us right now about Darnell Wright. There's not a lot of NFL GMs, as you know, who do that. Why is it important to you to be a little more open when it comes to that? As a fan and as somebody in the media, it's appreciated because we learn more. but what's your attitude toward being a little more open about stuff when people aren't necessarily like that in your line of work?
Yeah, I think over time, just kind of looking at it, I think at the end of the day, we all want to know why. And if you don't answer the why, then anything is possible in terms of what could be the reason this or that happened or why this decision was made or that decision. Now, there's some things, again, I talk about with contracts, like I'm going to protect. I think there's some things that are just internal conversations that got to stay that way. But I have no issue with certain things kind of explaining the why behind it. Because I think once you know the why, like, then all of a sudden the 6 different conspiracies of why a team did something starts to take over, and it becomes a distraction. So I try the best I can with the situations that I can open up about. But I think that helps our fan base. I think that helps everyone covering the team. I think it gives them a little bit more direction and understanding of why we're doing what we do. So I try my best at it. I think it's helpful for everybody, to be honest.
Last question for you, Ryan, then we'll let you get back to your busy day of finding an edge rusher. So when you look at Kevin Warren and you look at the new Bears president and how he has his hand in everything, and he wants it that way, and he's interviewing every employee, and our Dan Weeder did a terrific deep dive in the Chicago Tribune over the weekend about his role and the impact he has on every part of the organization. What's been his direct impact and input with you, the general manager? Because at the time he was hired, and you were quoted as saying that you look forward to working with him, and we know that he wants to be involved. How involved has he been, and what effect has it had?
Yeah, the word I would use is partner. Ever since he's been in here, I feel like I have a partner that is highly supportive in what we're doing. I love the fact that he asks good questions. I love the fact that he wants to be involved. Quite frankly, with how busy both of our days are, we carve out time to spend talking about just life and our families. And we talk about the big decisions that may be coming up, and we work through those things. And I can give him some understanding of, again, why we're doing what we're doing. But the biggest thing to me is I have a partner that is he's there for me. I see him also as a mentor who's been through a lot. He's seen different things. So I can ask him really tough questions when I'm trying to make the most sound decision possible for our organization, which oftentimes is not black or white. It's always gray. There's always a 50-50, 51-49. Like it's not just like green light or red light. So I can't express to you how excited and happy and fortunate I am to have him in this building.